Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Monumental 30th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Andrew Norman and Brandi. Our topic today is social acceptability. Andrew, you want to tell us about the topic and why you picked it for today?
Social acceptability. The feeling of being included in a group, right? That's something that I think we struggle with here in and out of the rooms, kind of what that means exactly, right? Social acceptance, the feeling of being included in a group and not being judged or rejected by others, right? And that can get hairy quick, right? With people pleasing, and there's a lot of defects that can come out of that when you're talking about trying to be accepted into a group or or a fellowship or something like that. And then if you don't get accepted, right, like if you come in and you try to get, you feel like it's going to be all accepting, and there's that word again, Milan, acceptance. What do we talk about all the time, bro? It's acceptance. So social acceptability, it seems to pop up so much more now that we're really we're really talking about it a lot. I'm really seeing that word pop up a
It's
lot.
pretty much the entire program.
And
I'm just saying.
And that's what you hit to on one of the earlier podcasts where you said everything and every decision and everything we do
Every
in recovery
choice
comes down to acceptance.
or not.
Right. And so the social aspect of this acceptance thing is where we get as an addict, we can get a little weird, right? We can get a little out of what we want to be doing and how we want to be promoting ourselves from within, right? It's one of those things that we can make one bad decision in a social setting, and it could break us.
Yeah.
Right, it could break us, right? If we make the wrong decision or we don't feel that we did something right. We get people on these meetings all the time, Brandi, that they'll say something, they'll be like, I'm sorry for doing, I'm sorry for doing. We're like, stop saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't need to
I used
say
to be
you're
one of those
sorry.
people.
Yeah, and then
Really?
there's specific ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go, look, there's nothing that you need to be sorry for, right? We're here. This is, we need you, right? And we're cramming a lot of stuff down their throat too, in terms of literature and readings and things like that. But it's about the promotion or attraction rather than promotion. Social acceptability does not equal recovery. It says that in our literature. It says that in the Living Clean. It says it all throughout. And so I just wanted to open up a broader discussion on that, right? Because there's a lot of aspects that go into social acceptability, right? One in particular that I was looking up, social acceptance in perspective, and then I'm getting ready to ask you guys a question. I'm sorry, I was so social acceptance and social acceptability. I'm going to ask this question because I kind of just opened it up. We're going to get into all of it in the next hour and a half. But what are some ways, and I'll ask you, Brandi, first, what are some ways what are some ways that you can promote greater inclusivity or acceptance, like in the group, right? What are some ways that you can promote a greater inclusivity and acceptance just in your life in general, in a group? What are just some ways you can do to stay active on promoting that inclusivity and acceptance? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. My first thought is just to be myself and not pretend to be somebody else for oh, that person knows what they're talking about, so I'm gonna definitely listen to them, because that's just not even if I do know, I just to be myself and show people that we are all equal in so many levels.
Another layer on that. And I
Yeah.
meant to say this, how and then how can society promote, and that's what I guess I meant to ask in the beginning too. Obviously it starts with you, but how do you think it grows into like, how can society promote that better as a whole, right? And obviously as it pertains to like recovery, mental health, things like that. So that's what I was
Um,
really trying to get at.
well, I mean, then it would be like, the how how things are so categorized
Yeah,
in society,
yeah,
and that's something like, and people, not only are they put in categories, but they want to find their category.
yeah,
And I just don't think that when we do that, it's like, what's the bigger picture? What are we really, are we trying to be better for the next person or for ourselves? Because we can't do shit for anyone else if we're not
yeah,
internally working on ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
And I think showing that kind of, because I think if it was, if in society itself, it would, that was more promoted in a way, it would, kind of just, I guess, sell itself in a sense. And that's when I say, like, I could only be myself. I can only,
Yeah.
promote what I've done for myself, and the tools I've used, should I say, in order to feel a way, and to feel accepted in, in society itself and in my household even. But it's, the categories are just a bit much. And I see that even with, non people that are not in recovery. I mean, don't get me started on how kids deal with their categories. That's just got another podcast on its own. But it starts there, it really starts there. And I think that people just feel like they need to be a certain way, when really, to know yourself the most is just to lay it all out and not feel like you have to be a certain way, or, so good at something. I mean, I struggle with that a lot first coming in this program, because, like, I want to know everything, and I want to, like, mark boxes off, and I want to just be like, oh no, I want to answer any question anybody asks me, and I want to know the answer. It doesn't work like that. It takes time, and you got to just, obviously stay open on. I'm always open to learn something new, not just about, drugs and alcohol and how to not use them, but about myself, and how I can be a better me inside, and then a better me on the outside for society.
Yeah, no,
Because,
no.
we just, it's, I think a lot of us come into this program and of recovery so broken that we wouldn't even know where to start, like, who am I really? Am I that kind of person? Like, and I was a sorry person. I've said sorry after everything. It seemed like
Yeah,
I've had people tell me, you don't need to say sorry. And I find myself saying that to people, like, you don't have to say sorry to me. And
yeah.
it's because I didn't know. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know of where to be accepted, how to be accepted, when I was already accepted,
I've
from the
actually
get
heard you
go.
pop it out in a meeting every once in a while, but it's not
Yeah.
like you're just like sorry. But then I can see what you're saying, that you might have used
Yeah.
to be that
Yeah.
person,
Still can.
but you go
Yeah.
sorry, sorry, but it's not like a sorry
Yeah.
guys, it's like
Yeah.
sorry, hey,
Exactly.
move through it.
Yeah. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's true. And I think that's okay. But it could trickle out to more if I don't work on
Yeah,
myself,
yeah.
because it, when I see someone else say it too much, I'm like, oh, I feel that. I feel why
Mm-hmm.
you're doing that right now.
One of your
You don't
sponsors
need
says it a
to.
lot.
You
One of your
guys
sponsors
are
say
Yeah.
it a lot.
American,
Yeah.
okay? I'm from Canada. We specialize in the I'm sorry's. Like,
Yeah.
you guys don't even know when you should be sorry.
Yeah. Right. Right. I'm sorry for that.
That's you should be sorry, Brandi,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh my gosh, no, 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 no. So that'll lead us, I guess, into you,
Yeah.
Milan. So I'll ask you, what are some ways that society can provide greater inclusivity and acceptance?
So, one thing I think is, the cheapest, most effective way to share some love is through a smile.
Mm.
When people are coming into a meeting and they're all meek, it's like I try to make sure I give a smile and a wave to every person passing me by. Like it's like you say, Andrew, where you may not like everybody, but you love everybody. And I feel that everybody deserves to feel part of that group, because if they don't, they're not going to come back. For a lot of people, it's really hard for them to even come out, and especially after you've been isolating in the ends of your addiction, right?
Hmm.
Like, socially acceptable to them is finally showering to some people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
like, and so it's really difficult to start socializing. Then, if they're coming off a drug that's robbed them of endorphins, they're not going to be happy, right? Like, spreading a little bit of the joy in that direction, and the boxes there that, it's great because I can crosstalk, but the boxes that Brandi was just talking about, I was fortunate enough to have a really loving mom who told me when I was a little kid that I could do anything I put my mind to. And
Mm.
I was young enough to believe her. So I don't really live a life without, like, within a box.
Yeah.
Boxes aren't something I put myself in. And if you're around me, I don't put you in one either.
Yeah.
Like, let's do whatever the fuck we want as long as we're not hurting somebody that somebody loves or them, like socially acceptable to me. Like, I find it really funny is that you can be as crazy as the shithouse weirdo. And as long as you pay your bills and aren't like physically hurting other people, you can go about your business in this society like nobody's business. And I
Yeah.
mean, crazy, crazy. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, the factor is it seems to be like a certain level of physical damage and a certain level of financial damages. And that's the only thing that's going to really get you labeled socially unacceptable in our society. And,
Hmm.
so socially acceptable is a really, really wide, wide thing. But, you know, I think, okay, like, first of all, I think that, you know, at least what I'm seeing in Canada is that multiculturalism is growing like, much, much more than it was when I was young. Like, socially acceptable is like a race wide, a sexuality wide thing,
Hmm.
a gender wide thing. And, that really starts with, love, acceptance, and open mindedness. And I think the biggest thing is, for us not to think we're right on something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because as soon as you label someone wrong, they're not part of the pack anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I would say, I think that might be my answer for that. I'm not
I
really
like
sure.
that.
It
No,
wasn't
I
good.
like that.
Hmm.
I love that. I love that, man. So
I do
so
too.
society at large, guys, I think has a we've talked about this before too. That humglum circle, right? That circle, everybody's crying, nobody's happy in the room, and
Mm.
everybody's on drugs still, right? And that's just not how it is, man. It's not how it is. And so right there, that starts it off negative, right? That starts off at least what we're trying to do here with recovery and kind of shed some light on the positive aspects of recovery. Like that right there starts us off in the negative light, man. Like I remember as a little kid watching commercials, and I remember specifically one where it was this black and white, very slow moving picture, but it was a gentleman with beat up clothes, like a homeless guy running from the cops. And they're like, "Do you want to be a junkie?" Like it was like, "Do you want to grow up to be a junkie?" And I remember it hit me like, of course I don't want to be. I don't even know what that is, but it doesn't look cool or whatever. And it's just like it if they would tell us that there are certain things that will be really really cool as a kid, but like you need to watch out for these things and watch out for these kind of people that are putting these things in front of you, like they don't really portray this whole drug
Mm.
and recovery thing in a good light, man. It doesn't really set us um it doesn't give us a good foot forward once we get our head, our feet in the door, right? Anybody outside of recovery doesn't really understand that we are really really resourceful magical motherfuckers, Brandy.
That's right. That's right.
We
Yeah.
look,
Yep.
we if when we were in active addiction, I've heard somebody say I rode on a pink one-legged bicycle in Hurricane Andrew to get my dope, to get one more hit. And
Oh
he was
shit.
fucking
Right.
serious, right?
Yeah.
Like we would do anything. And
Yeah.
so imagine somebody who's really taking some steps to stay clean. There's that benefit of the doubt thing, right? Like we would have more benefit of the doubt if it was more of a positive light on this thing, and there was more of a
Hmm.
redemption song, right? There
Yeah.
should be more of a redemption song, and then we have these
What do you
celebrities and
want the
shit.
title of the song to be?
Redemption song. That's my guy. And Bob Marley also said that you never know
Yes.
how strong you are until being strong is your only choice.
Yeah.
That is my I have it on a necklace that I wear all the time. It's like badged on me. So love that guy, man. If you're listening. So yeah, and then we have these celebrities, right, that we worship. We
Oh
worship
yeah.
these celebrities. We worship these
Yeah, my
kids,
kids are they're in that era of like celebrities
bro.
are real people and like I want to do what they do, and I'm like,
Look,
no.
yeah, and so here's where we have a real problem, right? Because we pay them a lot of money to be celebrities. We have
Hmm.
celebrities that don't do shit but get on Instagram and take a picture of themselves,
Yeah.
and they are bona fide millionaire celebrities and have
Yep.
two personal assistants, right? It's ridiculous.
Yep.
And so not only are we like fantasizing about being those kind of people, like we can, it's like a lazy way to live, right? um you're not going to be that person, right? That's that one in a million person that just knows somebody, has a daddy who knows somebody, whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
did something, made a sex tape, something, whatever. And so then they get addicted to drugs. A lot of them, and I can only imagine if I was in the limelight of like that, I would be a raging lunatic with all the money, all that money.
Me too.
And
Me
I
too.
would be a
I
fucking
don't
nut.
want it for nothing.
I
Nope.
would be a nut. More money, more problems, right? What does Biggie say? More money, more problems. Like I probably wouldn't be alive today, Brandi and Milan. If I had like that amount of money, I probably would have
Mm.
died. Like you have a lot of young, singers, dancers, act, a lot of them overdose young because they just don't know how to control it, right? But we look at them as gods, right?
Yeah.
And then and then it's almost glorified. This whole like becoming addicted to drugs is almost a little bit glorified. It's changing a little bit, right? Because
Yeah.
there's this teeter into mental health now, right? And there's a buildup, at least in the States, Milan. I'm not sure about Canada, but there's a buildup. There has been, and it's a little bit slower roll now, but there was this big thing that has come along the past couple of years that mental health is a big fucking deal, and it's not looked at as such a like. I felt like what is it? What is it? The lady that wears a scarlet letter, the
Mm.
scarlet letter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're labeled,
Yeah.
right? And I think
Yeah.
you have a mental health, you're crazy, bitch is crazy, right? Like
Categorized.
you're
Yep.
categorized and you can't get out of that. So that's why I never wanted to get into treatment, and like I never wanted to even go to a therapist because I didn't want to have to be seen walking into a therapist's office,
Mm.
right?
Mental health
Yeah.
was stigmatized when I grew up.
Huge.
Yeah.
Nobody would be like, I'm a schizophrenic, I have
Yep.
depression, I'm bipolar. Like I hear people just openly talk about their mental illnesses now,
Yes.
like in a way, like like it's like masturbation as a boy. Nobody was allowed to talk about it
Yeah.
till my one
Yeah.
Italian friend
Yeah.
brought it up, and then everybody could talk about it.
Yeah.
Yes. And all
Yep.
those things to me back then meant the same thing, right? It was like we're all good, all good, all good until you're fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all good, all good, all good. Oh, they're taking Ritalin, which is crazy, right? Like the kid's
Yeah.
crazy. And then it plays off onto like, well, was I given those kind of medications too early? Did that mess me up? Like, were my parents on drugs? There's all these other things, but the thing is we get better, right?
Yep. We do.
There
We
should
do.
be more awareness on the fact that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have gotten clean working the steps. And not only that, they made the
Yeah.
people around them's lives better,
Well,
right?
so with that, like you talking about like addiction because it's what it is. Addiction. They call it whatever they want in the limelight. Is everywhere, and that's why I feel grateful that like I get to show my kids the recovery part to it. Like
Yes.
they
Hmm.
know the addiction from just their own family, their own their mom, and then society out there, and the recovery of this addiction at the same time. Like that's it's so important because there's no guarantee my kids aren't going to experiment. I don't want them ever to. I'm hoping I scared them enough, but
They see
they're
the
different.
fruits. They see the fruits of
Yeah,
your labor,
exactly,
right? They
exactly.
see they see
Yeah,
that
But
you are
even if they fall, at least they know there is a way out by
yes,
exactly,
watching it.
yes,
exactly.
And the longer
yes.
you keep your cleanliness from the addiction, the longer you're proving to them that it works.
Yeah, and the passion and love I have for my recovery.
Yeah,
It's not
Exactly.
like,
well,
oh, I
that's
gotta
it.
take this like multivitamin. Like, oh, it's
Yeah.
the what I put into it is what
My
I wanted
daughter
to put
loves
And
into
you
that
it.
I'm addicted to recovery.
and you
Like
stay
Yeah,
she
yeah,
consistent.
was so
Consistent.
afraid that
yes,
she was going
yeah,
to lose me.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
she's
She
like,
got her
I am
dad back.
so happy
She
yeah,
that
got her
you're into
dad
that.
back. Bro,
Yeah.
she didn't
yeah,
know, she didn't even we didn't know who Milan was before you stopped using drugs. right? The
Yeah.
world was not ready for what happened when you
Milan
got
didn't know who he was.
right. Milan did. So, but see, Brandi, you stay consistent, right? And they see
Yeah.
that, and there's something
Yep.
to that. There's something to
Yeah.
staying consistent, looking somebody in the eye and answering a question. And if you're wrong, make it, admitting that you were wrong and coming back with it. It's a consistency that we did not have in addiction.
In my
What was
3.5
consistent?
years almost, not using drugs and working my recovery is probably the only consistent thing I've done in almost 3.5 years. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, I cook dinner every night. There's things, but I'm not consistent. Not
Yeah.
consistent on how I cook it or what I do around the house
Yeah.
or any of it. But my recovery is the only consistent thing and that's for a reason. That's the importance of it. I know the growth and I know that the recovery I need, and
Yes.
and my
You buy
kids
into
see
the
that.
literature. You buy into this
Yeah.
literature. It was written about you, for you. Somebody
Yep.
followed you around for
Exactly.
years and wrote and was
Exactly.
taking notes. When we read this literature, we get back memories of things that we've had, because there are personal stories now in the back of the literature that like tell
Yeah.
stories. It's fucking crazy. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So not wanting to be like that star that goes to treatment, and like, I can't be like that person unless I'm addicted to drugs. And if they're doing it and they're making millions of dollars and they're on Instagram with 1 million followers, why the fuck not would I do it? Right? As a
Right.
kid, I can't fault that way of thinking. And then if they're already have that addictive personality, my dad used to tell me this all the time. We've got an addictive personality. He
Yeah.
never said we can use it for good things. He just went, we have
Right.
that
Yeah,
addictive
because we can.
personality, because now we can channel that shit for good reasons and good purposes,
Mm-hmm.
as we learn to like adapt these principles, right, and try to
Yeah.
stay steady. So that, and then yeah, addiction, that I really, that's all I had. And then they make too much money. Look, there's too much money getting thrown around. Even
Yeah.
athletes
Yeah.
get paid too much fucking money. I'm talking baseball players getting paid $300 million. Like, come
We're
on.
talking recovery. We're not talking money.
No, but
Yeah.
no,
Right.
you know what I mean though. They're just making money.
Yeah.
They're making too much money. So
Yeah.
that glorifies their actions. If
Mhm.
they're
Yeah.
addicted to drugs and they're fucked up, hey, they're gonna overdose. I'm gonna get on the brink of overdose. And like, come on, guys. You know,
Yeah.
be your own individual. I love the fact that, so Brandi, your kids are getting introduced to this fellowship in this 12-step program, not by getting thrown from the back of a cop car into the rooms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're getting acclimated to it and getting some kind of fellowship, and it's getting in their ear at least, so that maybe they'll help a kid that might be on drugs, right?
Yeah.
In their normal passing in school, they might see a
Yeah.
kid doing something. They might say something that they hear in a meeting of yours and change that
Yeah.
person's life. It
Yeah. Well,
might get them to
even
stop from using.
my daughter, I've used the program with her for her for the issue she's had with like suicidal ideation and
Yeah.
self-harm. That's the 12 steps that I went over with her, like not step by step, but the tools I got from all of it.
Yeah.
And her just listening to other addicts. She used to go to meetings with me all the time. And just being able to give that to her and see like the how much of this program and my recovery can do. It doesn't just stop me from using.
Do you find yourself actively, like, because I know you've worked the steps, you worked the step with sponsees, you kind of know some of those questions in the step work. As when something comes up, I bet I could see you like somewhat asking some of those questions as something as it relates to your daughter, right? Like asking a
Yeah.
specific question that you might know that it works on something with the sponsee, right? It helps
Yeah.
with me.
Yes.
And you will ask that poignant question that they could write for days, right? And you just shut up and
Yeah.
you let them answer. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know exactly where they're at.
And it's crazy that like her never picking up a drug ever, and then me, I've obviously count my days of not using. Um, uh, we, the same feelings. That's why it's like we may be different people in this program, but there's the similarities are undeniable, and
Yep.
the formula to recovery is the same. It
Yep.
doesn't matter if where we came from and
Yep.
what our addiction in the form of it is.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
It's crazy. And there's
it
no
is
model for
crazy.
the recovering addict, right? So
No, there's not. Yeah, so we got to
this is
be.
all encompassing. Like we follow certain rules, but there's a lot of gray area, not gray area in like you can kind of use or not use, like stop using drugs, read this book, do the step work, and don't even really think about anything else. Just
Yeah.
do that and keep coming to these meetings Do a 90-90 if you're real new. Go to treatment if you ain't been to treatment. I'm gonna hit on that. We're gonna keep with that until we're gonna be that treatment podcast that like people are gonna go, okay, now I'm not scared of treatment anymore. Because it's a college dorm. Go to vacation and thaw out, guy.
Because it'll be the best 35 days of your life.
Exactly.
Hands
You'll be
down,
walking different, talking different. The colors
Yep.
are different when you get out. You
Yeah.
taste the food tastes different. Everything. You'll be looking at rainbows for the first. You don't even know what a rainbow is anymore. We were in treatment. We looked up. There was a double rainbow. We were like crying because we're like, I haven't even looked up. You know, I'm driving to go get my drugs. I ain't looking up for a rainbow.
Nope.
And the guy around the corner using was like, "Where's the triple rainbow?"
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Is that it? Is that all we get? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never enough.
Just
Man,
want
never
more.
enough.
Yeah.
So
Brandi, you got a
my
question?
I do. So I got a couple of them. We don't have to do them all, but I figured
I got
I
a
would
couple
be
too.
prepared. So talking about, acceptance, social acceptance, accountability. Anyways, what are potential dangers that can arise from mistaking social acceptability? What's that? Yes, from mistaking social acceptability. So I think I
For
wrote
what?
that down wrong. Yeah, I know I wrote that down wrong. Let me go to the next one. Okay.
comparisons, Miss.
I was
Yeah,
just-
sure.
I was just testing you guys to see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
I passed.
You did.
A. The answer is A.
Hey, yeah.
No, it's C. C. When in doubt,
Yeah.
put C.
I think it was
None
a
of the
two-part
above.
question. I rewrote it. Anyways, it's a good one. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Besides not using, what is the most beneficial change you have made since beginning your recovery?
In relation to social acceptability?
Yes.
Okay, I would say it is considering other people's perspectives. You know, like I think that way down, selfish child, for sure, selfish child, entering addiction, probably like I've always been a fairly generous person, but I'm just not sure of my motives now, But I feel that there was a lot of times where I justified like a philosophy of an action in order to do it so that I wouldn't have to consider the consequences effects on other people.
Mm.
And I would call myself a sensationalist because that basically gave me a carte blanche to have sex with or do whatever I wanted, regardless of how it was hurting other people. And then somewhere inside my mind, I would just lacquer that mind with enough drugs to think that I had done the right thing because I had, satisfied myself on that. And I feel that, I'm taking a lot more time these days to consider other people's things. And even if sometimes it's retrospectively, like I'm getting better at my daily inventory. And part of that is making my amends right away. Most conflicts that are arising in my life are not lasting more than an hour to 3 hours, and inside that time, I'm definitely considering what's happening with other people. And, like if the word is social acceptability, isn't that the ability to accept like the social nature of actions? If you flip that back around, and and then society really exists because of us having an exchange of interactions that benefits us all, or it would cease to exist. Like, right? Like if it wasn't good that we were all doing different things, and all those different things together bring us our water, our power, our food, every single thing like that, our roads, right? And so we're all like, we're not all slaves, but we all are cogs in the wheel that make the wheel go round.
Yeah.
And like I've had some super profound moments where I'm okay with my cog. Like I had this conversation with my sponsor last week where I'm like, I'm really like, I call them glimmers of serenity, but it's also like glimmers of just acceptance of my life exactly as it is right today. Like if you Groundhog Dayed my days, a lot of days, I'd be stoked for another 40 years of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like just like that was good enough. I got up, I did my, gratitudes. I did some songs. I worked on a couple other things. Exercised, walked my dogs, smiled, had a little breakfast time with Michelle, did a meeting, come out, sponsee time, boom, work time, podcast, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
And like inside myself, like that is me. Like that's my ability to accept my little society, my social acceptability. And
Yeah.
I just feel that for myself, I don't have anything to prove to anybody except for to myself and my changes.
Yeah.
Like I know what my deficits are right now from my step work, and it's just chipping away at that. And I think it's that, so in a nutshell, I think that I just came up with my answer for your question is
That
that
was a great answer, though.
no, no, but my
Oh, oh,
but my change, like my single biggest change would be my desire to change.
mm,
And my effort going forth on that.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
Can you ask it one more time?
Yes. Yes. Okay.
I love it.
Besides not using, what is the most beneficial change you have made since the beginning of your recovery?
That is a good one. That is a good one. I think with me personally, when I came in here, and I think we're all guilty of this, and we're all still guilty of this to a point, that judgment of other people, right?
Hmm.
That just blind judgment of other people. I used to be really bad at that, and I would say I wasn't. And there's people that are like, yeah, we ain't judging, but we're judging, right? You always hear that little whisper, right? And people are judging you regardless, but it's one of those things that we're so worried about what other people are thinking about us, especially in active addiction, man. I heard this analogy one time where it was like we worry so much about what our neighbors think about us, like are we taking the trash out on time on the right day? Are we cutting the grass before them, after them? Are we parking our cars clean? Is the how are the bushes trimmed? Our neighbors don't give a shit about
Yeah.
what our house
Yeah.
looks like.
Oh, they
They
did
don't.
in my neighborhood. Woo! They were like,
So
they wanted you to cut the grass diagonally, not side to side.
see, there are
I'm not
I'm just
kidding.
I'm talking about like for just for me to try to put an analogy to it, or to put some kind of like picture it. But yeah, some neighbors are
Yeah.
nuts, right? I
That's
get
funny.
that. But most neighbors really, you're peeking out the window to see if they're out there before you go to your car. Not because you're on drugs, but it's just like that. It's that like, is anybody out there? What are they going to think about me? And they're not even caring about you. And then look, if you don't cut your grass, they're probably happy because it makes their grass look better, right? Like they're not
Yeah.
worried. They're not worrying about you, right?
That's
And as
great.
I really thought about that, like the less you do around the house, like they probably like you a little bit better. Like just don't be an asshole, right? Don't be a dick. Um, so there's a lot of that. Like I used to really people please, right? Which is a form of dishonesty, man.
Hmm.
My sponsor taught me that a long time ago. When you're people pleasing, you're lying to yourself. It's one of the highest forms of self dishonesty that you can do to yourself. So don't
Yes.
do that shit to yourself. So I don't do that anymore, man. Like I've learned, like like I don't have to unscrew somebody else's light bulb for me to shine, right? I don't have to outdo somebody to make myself look better. And it's how I'm living my life today that and how I set the example for myself. It's not me saying, hey, if you do this, you'll find yourself here. It's
Mm.
just about me coming on here, making meetings like crazy, right? Like setting an example, right? Like when I was in treatment, I got up before everybody, I made the bed to set that example in the room. I've learned to become a leader. I was not, I didn't have that attribute when I first got here, right? So that I've gotten a lot better at that, right? I've gotten a lot better at just empathizing with people and not judging them. I'm not judging people. We all judge, right, for one way or another. But I found myself judging and coming right back off of it, right? I judge and I go, where? That's the way you used to think, bro. Like that's
Yeah.
not you anymore. I don't like act on it or like make a smirk comment or like laugh in their face. Like I just don't do that anymore today. And that's a big deal if you think about it, because we used to act out
Massive.
all those
Yeah.
little like you did get like the smirk at you because you're not as cool as me.
Yeah.
We were into all that shit. All of it. Every time we had a chance to outdo or smirk somebody or drive faster than somebody or cut,
We were covering
did
up
it.
all kinds of shit doing
Everything.
that, you know?
Yeah, we're just
Yeah.
covering up the fact that we're dicks and we're on like
Yeah.
we got shit like we're trying to get there faster because we're nuts right now. We're not in the right mind frame, right? But again, I'm not responsible for my disease. That's why this is so beautiful. When you read this shit, it tells you you're not responsible for all that shit. And
Mhm.
it lays it right out. And this book has been around for a long time.
It's
The
not a
basic
moral
text.
deficiency, you
Right.
know?
It's not a moral
Yeah.
deficiency. We're not assholes. We are
Yeah.
not dick. We were not born like that. That's not our thing, man. We have a disease, you know, and it's
Yeah.
not
Hold
the
on, though.
drug.
Can I ask a question on
Of
this,
course
though?
you can,
Okay, so we're not responsible for our disease.
but we're responsible for our recovery.
No, but I would beg to argue that somebody who was an asshole before recovery needed to work on themselves and could be responsible for being an asshole or be responsible for the lack of work on themselves.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Being an asshole just inside your addiction when you're out of your mind is one thing, but I think just flagrantly being like I'm not responsible for my assholeness. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, we got to talk about this one right now.
yeah, and I love that. And I love that. But here's why recovery in this program is so amazing. Because look, we're gonna fix both at one time. I don't
agree.
care. I don't care
Well,
how you came in here, if they were connected to begin with, or you connected them
Mm.
coming in. We're gonna work on all
but
that shit
I'm
because you can't be an
responsible for my
asshole.
anger and abuse towards other people.
Of course, of
You
course.
know, I just don't want to blanketly like I felt like whoa. I've been the receiver of abuse from people. And I'm like
Yeah.
trying to think of like that person's not responsible for their actions to me. And man, I just instantly hackles. I was like, no, man, we gotta talk. We can
And
talk.
that's your
Yeah.
recovery. That if you look
Yeah.
at it in terms of like you're able to do that, and that's your recovery process, being
Mm,
Yeah.
proactive in your recovery process by doing what you just said,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's not judging others, the empathy versus sympathy piece. I don't just walk around going, man, that guy looks like he's having a like I wish I wasn't there. Like I put myself in that dude's shoes and I try to,
Yeah.
especially as it relates to somebody else in the rooms. Like if I see somebody struggling, because that's the ultimate, like we were there, bro. Like I could, when I see somebody that can't get a share out without busting out crying because they just the pain, the spiritual, mental, emotional, physical pain,
Mm.
um my everything goes to them, right? My everything that I have in terms of empathizing with them, man. My body, I feel it, right? I get it's like a nostalgic feeling of uncomfortableness, like because I was
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
you know. So
And
That's great. I mean, when you look at it like that, because it's almost like out of body and seeing how it was and how it is.
yeah, yeah, and then your
I
other
love
body
that.
can kind of, when you start acting out, they can kind of tap you on the back like, bro, what you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like get it,
Right.
like
we're not
tighten
there
up.
Yeah.
anymore.
We're not
Yeah.
there anymore. Tighten up. Ding ding. It's
Yeah.
just like, and that's your higher power. Just come on, man.
Right. It's true.
Look, hey,
Gotta
when the
listen to it.
power of
Gotta
love
listen.
overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
Come on, baby.
Boom.
I love
Okay,
that.
Brandi, you got to
I
answer your
love that.
question.
Of course, I have to read it again. So, besides not using, of course, that's a big one. I always say that too. Like, hands down, obviously, I'm very grateful. I don't use drugs anymore, and the program's given me that. But when it comes to social acceptability and just being able to function with society, on the outside, I've learned that obviously it comes from the inside. Like I have to be able to, like, I want to portray who I am, not what people want me to see. Like I wore all kinds of masks when I was using, so many that I didn't realize until I really started breaking it down. What how much I was not myself. And so, one of the biggest benefits I've gotten from the beginning of my recovery is just the honesty, not only with everybody, but with myself. Like, and it was hard to, like I thought when I got clean, like all my character defects would just go away and I'd be like, perfect little Brandy. Fuck no. I mean, I had to it took me a long time to stop lying about stupid shit. I think I was
Yeah.
like 2.5 years in when I told my husband about the credit card I
We
had.
just get better at processing them, right?
Yeah, right. And so it's like it's the honesty that I've gotten from it because I got to be true to myself. That's the only way anyone's going to get even a a mild version of me. Like the true. And so being able to be honest with myself, in turn be honest with people around me, is huge. And with being honest, I can't help but to acknowledge things. And there's times I don't want to acknowledge it,
Because
and I
then you got
just
to
want to.
layer the honesty with honesty, right? Because you
Yeah.
cannot acknowledge it if you're being an honest person. Once
Yep.
you throw it out there, then that's that second layer. Are you going
Yeah.
to be honest about that layer of it? It's huge.
Right.
That's a
And then
really,
even
really good
honest
point.
with the way I feel. And that's a big one because my husband had a hard time adjusting to it because I'm like, well, this is how I feel. This is how this made me feel. And it's really, before I wouldn't say anything because I always had to, when you're using, you're always feeling like you defend yourself. But like I got to a point where I was just like, I'm wrong. So I mean, it's just what it is. I'm sure I'm wrong one way or another. But today it's like I can, when I'm honest, I can be honest with people on how I feel. And that's a big one because how you were saying, I love that. People pleasing is like the biggest form of lying to
Highest
yourself.
form of
Yes.
self-dishonesty.
And that's like, so along with, being honest with myself and people around me, I've been able to work on the stuff I've acknowledged, like my people pleasing. I didn't think that was a character defect. My sponsor's like,
I didn't
anything
either.
that makes you go home and cry and be pissed off at
Sean lit
yourself
me
for
up.
doing,
Sean lit me
then
up on
it
that
is a character defect. Yeah. And I've found a way to still be able to, I'm like, I thought I was just being nice to people. I want to do stuff for people still. So I had to find that balance. Like I can say no, and I can still help people if needed, or I make plans with somebody, even if I probably don't want to do it, I end up liking it when I get there. So there's that balance in it, but it all comes down to just the honesty with myself and internally, because this is, it's a with a physical and mental and spiritual disease that we have, and so it affects every part of me. And to be able to function in today in society, I got to be able to live with myself and say what is true. And so, yeah, honesty is a huge one for me. And I don't know, maybe it's not a benefit sometimes, but to who I am and who I want to be, it is. It's a huge benefit, and I'm grateful to be able to be honest with people today. You shouldn't do it if you got to lie about it. I'm not perfect, but I'm almost there. I'm a work in progress, right? Right?
You kind of are. And the truth,
Yeah.
look, Sean says this all the time. The truth is a holler, even at a whisper. The holler whispers.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't lie, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point because I didn't really think about that in my answers is being truthful to myself, man. Because that we
Yeah.
can lie again. The brain selling bullshit.
Yeah. I was always, if nobody is like, if I wanted to get away with something or whatever, and nobody knew, like that was my
What
go-to.
about you,
Like,
Mama?
well, then I'm going to do it. And then now it's, now it's like, well, oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I got a question here.
Yeah, no doubt.
How does embracing change as a constant help you in your recovery? And Andrew,
Is it Andrew?
yeah, because we're going to keep that circle going,
So,
or the circle.
yeah. So how does embracing change? Say that one more
How
time.
does embracing
Milan?
change
Get off
as a
Milan?
constant? Like change as a constant is like the phrase. So how
Yeah,
does
yeah,
embracing
yeah.
that
Mhm.
help you in your recovery?
Well, it helps me. Well, it keeps me not stagnant, right? A stagnant, lonesome uh, uh, addict sitting with him by himself is not a good place to be. I heard a long time ago that the disease can't hit a moving target, right? So you got to keep
Yeah.
it moving, right? You got to keep it moving. And that's in all your endeavors, man. You got to keep it moving inside the fellowship. You got to keep it out moving outside of the fellowship. You got to stay fluent. You got to be able to roll with the current, man, because there's some of us are sicker than others. Some of us are sicker than others. And so stay, that's a big thing with me. In consistency, you got to stay consistent. Because the social acceptability piece, and I'm trying to think of exactly how you real quick, Milan, how did you word that question? Because I'm having a blank here
How
on that.
does embracing change as a constant.
Yes.
So instead of fighting that things change constantly, you're
Yeah.
embracing that. And how does that
Yes.
help you in
I
your
love that.
recovery?
Yeah. So I have to embrace, obviously, changes in myself. I have to embrace changes in the group, right? There's a group aspect to this thing. When the group, there's traditions in this program, and sometimes we have to make a lot of hard decisions. And so leaning into that group and trusting in that the group is making the right decision, and not just because you feel a certain kind of way. You got to trust that these traditions are strong in this program. And trust that you gotta lean into that. You really do. Or else you're gonna find yourself on the outside looking in. You're gonna have some resentments towards the group. You're gonna have some resentments towards the fellowship, which would be completely unwarranted, right? Because my literature tells me, like, when we have these decisions that we make, and the group comes to this decision, it's not like just there's not the anonymity piece keeps it fair across the board, right? Somebody coming in with 1 day clean, first time in NA meeting, has just as much right to be there. Is just as important, if not more important, than the person chairing that meeting.
Yep.
And that goes hands down. Look, and you come to one business meeting, come to the next, you're going to have a vote, and you're going to have one more vote than the person that runs the business meeting, who usually is the one that runs most of the meeting, right? Like, so it's really what you make of it, what you put into it. You really got to come in here, and you got to understand that when we tell you we love you, we do. When we tell you we need you, we do. And our primary purpose is only to carry that message to you, because we were once that person that didn't have that message, right? And what is that message, Brandi? That any addict, any fucking addict can stop using drugs. Boom. I was in with that part. Stop using drugs, lose the desire to use. So you're telling me I can not only stop using, right? I can lose the desire to use drugs, and then hold on a second, find a new way to live. Like, that is our message, right? The promise of freedom, and the hope of, the promise of freedom from active addiction. Like, and then it says throughout, if we live this program, you will not use drugs. But, like, just like you were living in that drug world, you got to live in the recovery world, man. You have got to make recovery everything. Whatever
drugs for everything.
Yes. Or you felt like you were gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, you got so the group, the best, the group has the best intentions for everybody that comes into there. Now, every group's different. Every group has its own personality, right? I suggest that you find a group that you really feel at home at. Like, don't just go to one meeting and stay there and be stubborn about it. I try to go to meetings, and I try to put my influence on them. Like, if it's a bad meeting, I won't like leave and be like, oh, that's a shitty meeting. I'll try to put my effort and my compassion into it, and do a share, and maybe try to change don't be so negative, right? Be positive about this thing. Like, things that happen negative to you are happening to you because I can't even get how free do you want to be, motherfuckers? Like, come on, like,
right,
like let's go.
Right.
So the only person putting a cap on how free you want to be, feel, smell, taste is you.
Get out of your own way.
Get out of your own way. Look, and if you're really in your own way, we talked about this the other night. If you're really caught up in your own shit and you just can't get outside of it, go give that homeless dude down the road $1. Go open that door for that family. That just go do something outside. Go pick a flower and give it to an old lady. And I guarantee by the time you get home, you're not going to be in that headspace anymore, man. It's because of the way that lady will look at you when you hand her that flower. The way that homeless guy will look at you when you hand him that $1. It's about practicing compassion, because I didn't know what that was, right? And so people will get mad at me for doing little things like that. I'm like, bro, I'm just practicing how to do this. I don't know how to do this anymore, and I'm getting used to being a compassionate person for other people. Like, when somebody comes yelling down the road, like, there's probably a reason why he's yelling. I'm not gonna be like, that fucking nutbag. Nah, like, they're like, I'm gonna have compassion for somebody. I'm gonna try, right? I'm gonna try to do better than I did last time. And as long as I'm doing that, my God tells me I'm doing the right thing, man. Because when I pray to him, he talks back, and I'm getting the right shit done. And I'm staying clean doing it. So goodwill. I have goodwill in my life today because of all this shit, man. Get some.
Get some. All right,
Okay,
will you
Miss
read it for me
Brandi.
again? Please.
Obviously, it's what we
Yes,
do here.
it is, isn't
How
it?
does embracing change as a constant help you in your recovery?
Well, nothing changes if nothing changes. That's
Yeah.
like a big thing. I remember before getting into recovery, hearing that my way of trying to be clean didn't work, and I just couldn't embrace that. Like, I'm gonna get this. I don't need um, anything to change. Like, I can do this on my own, right? And but to be able to to be able to change and to embrace changing is a huge thing because, like, I don't. This is like I used it for 30 years, and and so I have to learn how to do things differently. I have to accept to be able to change, and I knew that everything had to change in order for me to do something differently. And like I had to learn how to like conversate with my husband, how to talk to people, how to not talk to people, how to make a good decision, how to be able. I mean, just every bit of change, how to tell somebody, like, speaking about my sponsor, my darkest secret, how to be able to be honest.
It's tough.
And it is tough. And to be able to look at myself for what who I really was in the time of active addiction. Like, it was a huge change for me to write down. I mean, my steps. That's why when I did my steps, every step I finished, it was like, this is the holy grail. Like, this is the one that changed me. This is everything, because there was so much that I saw, and that's all, like, being willing to change, being open minded, being teachable, all that stuff that is like required to be able to make any changes, really.
Yeah.
Because I know that, like, I'm not always right, and my way of doing things is not always right. I always say I measure once and cut twice. People are like, no, you're not supposed to do it that way. Like, I know, that's what I'm telling you. I measure once and cut twice. I just wasn't willing to do it differently.
Learned
And
that a long time ago too.
yeah, and I embrace change today. I know that even though I'm still feel good in my recovery, I want more change. I want, because with change is like I get to know other parts of myself, and the good and the bad. It doesn't necessarily mean And there's things that I could still to this day change, and I get in my own way a lot. Because I've already know that for me to not have, I don't say this to everybody because I don't ever want to feel like, like, I don't know, I don't want to take advantage of it. I don't have no desire to use. After 30 years, I've had deaths in my family, all these crazy things happen, and I don't want to use. It's not a desire for me at all. And so because I can do that, like, because that was accomplished by my higher power, me. If I don't accomplish something, it's because I'm in my own way. It's flat out. Like, that's one of the
There you
hardest
go.
things to quit. And I've done it, and I don't want to do it again. But I can't fucking put down ice cream. I always go back to ice cream. It's like this,
Yeah.
it's like
Haven't
Let's
talked
do a
about
little
ice cream in a
step
while,
work on
Brandi.
that. You can surrender
Why you
your
like to get
dairy.
ice cream?
yeah. Oh man, that's just bad. That's the worst. But I have to be willing for change, and a lot of people don't like change. I've learned to embrace it. People say, well, addicts don't like change, or they can always be categorized who doesn't like it. Flat out, people just don't like it. And you get out of a comfort zone when there's change. But we learn to adapt to it and to grow from it, and maybe it doesn't always work like that. And some changes are harder than the next. But if you are open to change and, and, in your recovery, especially, I mean, you're unstoppable in so many different ways,
Yeah. Yeah.
because my way of doing my recovery is nothing like the way I did my recovery my first month at all. I and so being able to make those changes and be able to do them and all of me and make and mess up. Like, I'm okay if I don't succeed at something today because I tried, and that's a huge change. Like, I wouldn't.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It shows you're trying.
Exactly,
Right.
because
And the
like
biggest change that we had was we would not be here right now if we didn't have COVID, and then we were able to change and conform into having these Zoom
adapt,
meetings.
yeah,
We
being able to
literally would
adapt
not be
to,
here right now.
yeah,
I
yeah.
heard there was a lot
We
of people
wouldn't
that
know
fell
each
off.
other
We
right
We would
wouldn't,
now.
not
and that's
even know each
sad.
other.
That's sad.
When
Yeah.
Mikey
Yeah.
came in here and did our podcast with us, Milan, he talked about, because he was going through it at that
Yep.
time, and he said so many people just did not want to change. They did not have the courage to change and to come
Yeah,
on here and do this. They had to do their in-person meetings, and they didn't
Yep.
have them. So people died,
yeah,
people went back out, people OD'd, people just got sick. And
yeah.
so it was the people that were able to stay fluent and change, man, and be open-minded enough to change, right?
Well,
And
and
a willingness
it's
without
such an
actually speaking.
important it's such an
Yes.
important part to being able, like the
Yeah.
whole nothing changes, nothing changes. Like that's a
Yeah.
huge part to it because, like I said, using for so many years, I thought that the drugs that I needed was to feel everything. I was obviously numbing everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
today I go through the same shit. Maybe not as dramatic because shit, crazy shit always happens when a
Mm-hmm.
sweeter's in town. I'm telling you, and so it's like, but today I can
Mm-hmm.
just embrace it. I can be like, okay, this is what's gonna happen now. Like, I don't have
Yeah.
control over a lot of
You've been
stuff,
through
and
hell.
I can,
You've been through it before.
yeah,
You've been through
been
harder
through it, so
shit.
I can get through this. And with
Yeah.
that is being adaptable, to my situation and
It's
my environment, and
confidence. It's confidence. Being able to go
yeah,
into a situation. That's what confidence is. Confidence isn't thinking
yeah,
that you're the mojo. Confidence is really defined as being able to walk into a situation and knowing that you're going to be able to handle it. That's really all it
yeah.
is. It's
I
really
love
cool.
that.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that too.
So yeah, I think that it's important to be able um, to make the changes that need to be done and to acknowledge them and see them and accept them because acceptance is a huge part
Hmm.
of it.
Acceptance. You become what you believe, guys. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, that's my answer.
That's great.
so I look at this question, and I got this question like before we started. Andrew kind of pointed me to this section that he got this topic from the Living Clean book, and so when I read this part, what dawned on me for myself is first of all, my recovery is so far beyond the use of substance now. It's completely the all encompassing evolution of Milan and his
Mm,
relationship with the universe. Like it's just that. And
yeah,
like that to me is like the most mystical journey I can ever go on because like I'm the central passenger, like
yeah,
I'm on every flight of the journey of
yeah,
Milan.
yeah. Like that.
Yeah. And what I liked about this, that kind of the statement there was, okay, there's accepting change as a constant, right? But they're talking about embracing it. So it's like almost taking the flux of the universe and all its challenges, and instead of just even achieving serenity, you're actually taking that serenity to a level of joy,
Mm,
I love that.
and so like quite a few things in the last couple weeks. I've for myself, I'm like painful, don't understand the lesson, but I'm earmarking this one for a good one in a few years. Like when I finally learn the lesson of some of the shit I'm going through,
yeah.
it's gonna be one of the best fucking lessons ever. Cause it's sucking now. and and like I
I
said
think about
Oh,
that
before,
too. That's great. It's a good way to look
like
at it because really you get something out of
losing
it.
everything in a house fire at 25 was one of the greatest things that happened in my life, and I can see that now, and I fully believe it, and
Hmm.
and it was so painful for a few years for me
Yeah,
to just release that shit and release all of that disappointment and that. And so I can really see now, like, aging parents, like that's a reality that life changes. The people around you are not always going to be around you. The group that
yeah,
you're in is not always going to be the same particles because they're going to age. Everything's changing. Like
yeah,
everything's changing. But it's like, one thing, like I'm older, but I'm not decrepit yet. And and in
yeah.
my lack of decrepit state, like I'm enjoying getting older. Like
Mm,
I've really enjoyed, like I wouldn't trade anything to be younger me right now
nah, me
because
either.
I enjoy having the wisdom and the experience of life and just not being in such a perpetual state of angst.
Yeah,
Like that the the level of my acceptance is so much higher than it was in my late teens to late 20s.
yeah,
Like every fucking thing was a tragedy. And like that was when I think that like I was the peak formulation of my pity party time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when it was like if something happened, it was like, whoa, is me. Like I was like a black and white movie where the lady puts her hand to her head and faints and like swooning and like the music and the guy comes and catch me, Andrew, life is melting me.
Trust fall.
Yeah.
Oh God.
You know,
Have you seen that dog where he's getting his fingers clipped and he goes, and he just falls back, he's getting his fingernails clipped, you know, he's just getting his fingernails clipped, and he's so dramatic, he's like, and he just falls out. It's just like, yeah, that's funny.
That would have been me. That would have been me. It would have been like,
So
well, I'm a specialist. And, you know, like I right now know, like I know, I see like knowledge like this, like an upside down pyramid. And it's like this little bit I know shows me this little 2 things I know, which shows me these 4 things I know, which shows me the 8, which shows me the 16. And recovery is really turning out just like that, like every other mental challenge in my life. And it's like, so the more I'm learning, the more I'm seeing that I need to learn, the more I see that I need to learn to change, to learn to, and it's going. And so I just like love the little steps, you know, no pun intended steps, but, but I love them. Like I love, you know, I love that I can get past my discomfort at the change, and that, you know, slowly that discomfort will be just like a hiccup. And then, you know, I'm hoping that like 70-year-old Milan is just like, oh, it's fucking awesome. What do we got to learn here?
Yeah, man.
You know, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, like I hope that becomes like one of my catchphrases is, what do we got to learn here then? You know?
Yeah. What do we got to do?
What do we got to learn? It's like, it's going to be, what do we got to learn? Because it's like, there's the lesson, and it's like, if we can turn that pain into education, you know,
that's a huge
then I
thing.
think
That's
that's transforming our entire experience of life.
Yes.
We'll call you the king of acceptance.
KOA.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So I have another question. You want me to ask another round of questions? All right. So y'all like this one.
I'm gonna
ask the question, then I'm gonna define the wording in here. So what are some positive aspects of social conformity? Okay, I'm gonna tell you what social conformity is. So I'm gonna ask a question. What are some positive aspects of social conformity? Social conformity is a type of social influence that occurs when a person changes their beliefs or behaviors to fit into a group. Okay. Now there's, and I'm not going to make it too crazy, but I'll say that again. Social conformity is a type of social influence that occurs when a person changes their beliefs or behaviors to fit into a group. People will do something just because they think that if everybody else is doing something, it's probably a thing to do. Now there can be a positive aspect to that. Now, what are some possible what are some positive aspects to that? If
that's a good one. Oh, I like
that's a good one. Yeah, man.
I know. You're first, Brandi.
Me first. Sorry, I'm always
yeah. I'm just
so, you know, positives of it is, you know, like, especially when we don't know what the fuck we're doing, you know, so it's like we don't even know what we believe, and so to be able to you know, hold on in someone else's, you know, and not for just because everyone's doing it, because that's like the classic why we all got here anyways, right? And but to do it because to do something new and to learn. And so I think that it can be a good thing, and that's like showing by example. You know, this is no promotion, just, you know, we're just here to, I can just tell you what has worked for me and like what has truly worked for me, and then you know, you can hear it and then you decide. And I think that it can be, you know, and of course there's always the downfall to something like that. Always, it happens all the time.
Right.
But I think that it's just sharing our experience with people, and, you know, giving away what was given to us. And when you do that and you're able to help somebody, and because I didn't know what, you know, I knew a couple things about myself when I got here, and so I was just willing to literally do what everybody else was doing in order to find my way in my recovery. And you know, and it's like you go off with a recipe, and then you kind of, you know, you're still making the same thing, but your recipe might be a little bit different. And it's because I didn't, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to
Or
be
you like red
clean.
pepper flake or something, maybe.
Yeah, right, right. Because I didn't know how to live life clean. I didn't know how to want to do things clean. I didn't know how to like everybody sharing, for example. Like I didn't want to do that. I mean, I was pretty quick to when I heard my story, but it was like there's a lot of things that I was,
It's
you
scary
know,
at
it is
first.
scary. It is scary. So to be able to benefit off of other people's, hard work to turn into your own hard work, I think is a big part of it. That's when I
Yeah.
think that the program is big because nobody's, we're not like telling people that like there's not like 10 people saying this is how you have to do it. Just listen and then you just choose that way. And because like the whole God thing, a higher power. That's a great example of it. Like everybody's higher power is different. We're all talking about higher power and the same, and that's the big part to it. But when we get to our recovery, we choose our own higher power. And so I think that's a big benefit to it is, it's not telling people, but just showing them and somebody getting something from it, finding their
I
way.
love it. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I
Milan, I'm
love
going to
it.
ask you again.
Mhm.
Social conformity is a type of social influence that occurs when a person changes their beliefs or behaviors to fit into a group. So people will typically, in society, change up just because if they think that somebody else is doing something or everybody else is doing something, it's probably the thing to do, right? So, what are some positive aspects of social conformity?
So I'm going to piggyback a little bit at the beginning here on what Brandi just said because when I showed up, I was lost, really. And my best thinking got me in a hospital, lying there
Mm.
scared to death of dying. And, I needed to be shown something different, right? And so, regardless of whether I understood, I have an analogy that I keep using, but it's like, you know, you don't know how to define the number pi, but you still can find out the area of a circle by going 2 pi r on a calculator. And so there's a little bit of acceptance or yeah, like acceptance that something somebody else has done works,
Mm-hmm.
without knowing the source of that, like you also didn't invent geometry, but you understand how to find the area of a triangle, and the people who did, though, don't need to show you the higher level math to for you to be able to use those formulas.
Yeah.
And for me, recovery is a lot like that. Like, I don't need to understand the mechanics of surrender to have lost all my compulsion to use drugs. I call it like the Jedi mind trick. Like, when they walk up, there is no Jedi's, and he's like, there is no Jedi's. Like, it's kind of like when I'm like, there is no compulsion. Like, it's kind of like that. Like, and so for me, it was important to be part of this program in order to glean the benefits from it, even if I couldn't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that conformity was good. And then a second part to that question, that was my initial thing. That was just kind of what Brandi made me think of with her answer. But the first part that I was thinking about was in relation to spiritual principles. Okay, like I don't think that there's anybody I've seen with a valid argument that any of those spiritual principles are bad for us to conform to.
Mm.
Like show me where how it's good to be dishonest. Show me how it's good
Yeah.
to be incompassionate. Show me how it's good to be intolerant. Like, what I smell is like war and hatred, just brewing from the lack of those. So, like, conformity to a certain level of principled action is now like is now what I'm striving to do, in front of people, and also, when nobody's looking,
Yeah.
and even evaluating when it's happening for me, like, when nobody's looking and being like, well, why am I thinking this, or glad I'm not acting on this, but I think that, like there's laws in our society, and I don't necessarily agree with all the laws. I'm not saying like I like to speed. I like to speed, but
Me too.
That's why we're brothers, bro.
but people who speed and can't drive are making a mistake. People who are excellent drivers, I think we deserve like they should have like another level on the road
It's
test.
less friction on the road, bro. We're just getting through
Yeah,
it. We're
you're
Like
right.
sliding through it.
I just think that there should be different levels of driving tests, and if you're as fast reacting as I am, you should be able to go 15 to 30
Let's
over.
do a podcast on it, please.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. But anyway, though, but in a sense, though, that conformity to law is really in a relationship of like they're like, how do we make people nice? Like
Mm,
how does a judge, prison system, and police make people nice? Well, in their attempt, it was laws, right? Um, and and these principles are like that. For me, I was, delusionally unprincipled when I came into the program. When
mm.
I even thought I was acting out in
Delusionally
appropriately,
unprincipled. I like that.
it was though, because I thought I was this fucking amazing, generous,
Yeah,
kind, honest.
me
Like
too.
I could be lying and
Yeah,
I could be lying thinking I was honest. Like I was not only
right?
lying to myself, I was lying to you, I was lying to you. Like it was just not good. And
Mm,
like I always say it, man, the Ten Commandments, the only thing I didn't do was kill someone. You
yeah,
know? I learned like uh it didn't serve me. And it didn't serve anybody around me. Like there was nice aspects to me. Like I wasn't a total jerk, and my family wouldn't still be here, right? Like and they say that to me all the time. They're like, it's not like it was all bad, and you were the most horrible father ever. But
yeah,
like filtered love is still filtered love,
yep,
and they're not getting the clear picture of what it could be.
Nope.
And they're not getting my attention because my attention was spent a lot of times on substance,
yeah, yeah,
and that robbery of their lifetime really just is one of my, largest amends I'm trying to undo by replacing that with presence, with a CE, not a TS. Just
mm.
Yeah.
clarifying because I don't like the TS anymore too much right now.
Mhm.
I like the C. I'm like, don't buy me nothing. Don't buy me nothing. Just be nice to
Yeah,
me. Just be
right,
nice to me for a day. Like just like let's
right,
have a nice day to Milan day.
Oh, that's
right.
Yep.
funny. That's
I
So
funny.
like
anyway,
that though.
okay, Andrew, you're
All
up.
right, cool. Yeah. So, the aspects of social conformity. So there are some really important aspects that it can have, right? Like what it really does, and it boils down to, is it helps us as individuals operate more efficiently, right?
Mm,
So like whether we're watching somebody that has what we want, whether we're, shit, fake it till you make it kind of thing, right? Like you seeing somebody in a job, you just get a job, and you're seeing them do something, like just act like them, like conform to whatever they're doing socially, because obviously it's what you want. You see them an upstanding citizen or whatever, that can go negative too. You can see them using drugs or something, that may be the one you want to go, obviously we're talking in the positive sense here.
yeah,
um you hit on something, Milan. Spiritual principles, what they also can't be is they can't be in conflict ever with each other. They're never in conflict with each other, right? Spiritual principles are never going to be like saying, I look, love doesn't want humility. Like they're never going to be bapping against each other, right? So we can always bring all of them into our lives, right? But what it does is it helps people learn how to be people again, right? It
yeah.
helped me learn how to be just a normal human being.
That was
So
how I learned my like God's will versus mine.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah,
one of the people in my treatment center, they said, just consider everything with a spiritual principle or not.
yeah,
Like every question you've got, like, are you acting in the spiritual principles or not? And it
yeah,
really simplifies life then.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It makes that when you're teeter tottering on your answer is going to be the one that has to deal with leaning into that spiritual principle for sure. So you know what, and I had a funny kind of image come up in my head when I'm thinking about like people acting like people. You know, we talked about being in a painting the other day, and then we would mock those people when we're in active addiction. You walk around, you see these people holding babies and their families walking around at a parade, and you're like, how are these people just normal people breathing the same air I am? And we just we just weren't human. It didn't feel human. I didn't feel like I was
Yeah.
breathing the same air as these people. And then we talked about like just mocking them, right? Just acting like we were them, just mocking them, acting like that, just because we didn't really know what else to do. And then you remember that movie Men in Black, where the aliens used to act like the people. They would try to act
Yeah.
like people, and they're
Yeah.
like this, and they're like
Yeah.
this. I am
Yeah.
a real person. That's how I felt,
Right.
right?
And you thought
Like
nobody knew, right? And it was so
really, like
obvious.
I'm not a fucking alien with balls and big things popping out of my back. And then the minute, you know, my man Will Smith would walk up and be like, boop, you know, and
Yeah.
that's what we do in this program is we come in and we try to just let that shit go. Surrender. Surrender
Yeah.
is about letting go. You know, learning how to float
Yep.
is not flailing in
Forget
the
how you
water and
used to
fighting
do
that
it
water.
and learn the
Just
new way.
let go, right?
Yeah.
And just and burn that shit down. Freedom rising. What is that? What is that picture we have in our background? That's a phoenix rising from the ashes, man. Burn that shit to the ground and get some foundation, right? You cannot build a house on sand, right?
Yeah.
You need to plot out that plot of land you're going to build it on. You need to, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into that. It's not just throwing up some stakes and being like, all right, man, we're going to build here on some blocks. It's not how it works, right? And so with the social acceptability part, that, you know, that's what really had got me on in my head when I'm like, they're trying to act like people, and there's the aliens kind of acting like people, and you clearly they're not people. But it gets us to where we can at least pretend to be a person until we really feel like one again, because we've lost that human ability we have lost that human trait almost, right? We've been reduced to living to an animalistic level, is what my literature tells me, right? We're living like dogs.
Yep.
You know, so you know, and then it also says in here that group pressure can be real or it can be imagined, right? There's another layer to that. There's a group that, you know, how strong the group is, and what kind of group that is, right, is something that it's whether it's either positive or negative. And I put that as it relates to our, like our group, right, our home group. You know, we have a strong group, you know,
Yeah.
a strong core group, and the traditions run true, and they run very, very strong in our group. And that's
Yes.
why things have been able to stay on track like it has. And you know, the traditions are not negotiable, right?
Says it right
We're not
there. Yeah.
playing around with the
Yeah.
traditions here. We're not like, okay, well, maybe not. No, they're not negotiable. That's why
Yeah.
this thing has worked for hundreds of thousands, not millions of people. And then they say something a little bit about social conformity can come in three different ways. It's the compliance. That's the public conformity motivated by a need for approval or fear of disapproval. The identification aspect, which is conforming to someone who is liked or respected, such as a celebrity. Then there's the internalization, which is accepting the belief or behavior and conforming both publicly and privately. Does that make sense? And so it says social conformity can be caused by real or imagined group pressure, such as bullying, persuasion, teasing, or criticism. The strength of the group, how close the group members are, and the size of the group that can all impact how likely a person is to conform. But then is this a good group for good? Is this a group for bad? Right? As it relates to us, we're, you know, the anonymity piece. We don't endorse outside enterprises. We are all about that one addict coming in here
Yeah.
and giving them, telling them we love them when they've never heard it before, giving them hope when they never had it before, giving them direction, giving them some kind of normal,
Yeah.
like I can be that, right? Hope, man. Hope.
Yeah.
We're giving these people hope. And so, you know, that's where that social acceptability thing can really be a good thing, because it can really just look, I just want to watch these people, and then I can just start acting like these people, and then eventually I'm gonna have my own, you know, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Your
have
own
my own,
recipe.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have my own recipe. I'm gonna take a little bit from this, take a little bit of that. I'm gonna spit the
Yeah.
bones out here. I'm gonna take a little bit of this, and
Yeah.
eventually I'm gonna
Take
have
what
my
you
own meat
need and
suit.
leave the
I'm
rest.
gonna have
Yeah.
my own normal meat
Yeah.
suit.
Yep.
So that's kind of my answer for it. So yeah, we're
That's a good
rolling.
one.
We're rolling hot long. Where we go? How? Where we at, Mr. Milan?
I would do another round of questions and then we call it maybe. We're
Yeah,
we're
Yeah.
at about an
yeah.
hour 20, but
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
So so I'm up for question. So, right? Is it me? I
yeah.
think so, right?
Hmm.
So I realized that this question, because this is a good one, and
I knew
I
this was
forgot.
coming back. I'm scared.
I forgot a word. That was it. So when you're thinking about like social acceptability versus recovery, like the difference in both of them, because there is a big difference in them. So what are the potential dangers arise from mistaking those two? Mistaking social acceptability with recovery, because
Well,
it's you can be clean, but not So go ahead. Sorry.
okay, like I mean, for myself, I truly believe this is the program of action, and these are the steps you take, to recover. And you know, I could still be dishonest, pretending I'm a nice person, sitting at every meeting going, not doing any work,
Hmm.
putting, something in the basket for the seventh tradition, taking you out for coffee, and I could be getting no recovery. Like, in fact, like it could all be a lie. And I just don't see how I myself could not have done the work I did inside the steps. Like, first of all, I mean, to truly have that admission of powerlessness, like if I'm telling the truth right there, you know, um, I'm changing. If
Mm,
I'm going into my surrender and that obsession is not my fight anymore, my weapons are down, and I'm winning the war with love and acceptance, you know, I'm a different person right there.
yeah.
Because I'm already being more honest with myself than ever that I lost the fight. And then when I did my step 4, like for me, there's just no way I can go back to those delusional actions and pretend they're real again. Like,
Right.
You
like
can't
Yeah.
unlearn this shit.
it's just like it's laughable for me
Yeah.
to look back and see how I was, you know? Like
Yeah.
and that absolutely is. So like I made myself so real socially acceptable inside my addiction. There was a lot of years that I was showing up for people and working for them and doing family things, and that was socially
Yeah.
acceptable. Like from the
Yeah.
outsider perspective, I was a hardworking man who loved his family. You know, and it was like so like the social acceptability is a really crazy thing. But the one thing I would like to touch upon it is like I've seen a lot of conflict inside the rooms. I've seen a lot of conflict inside the rooms, and I'm only going to touch on it. And I didn't want to dwell on it tonight because I didn't want it to be a focused negative podcast.
Yeah.
But there's acceptance, right? And when and then we're supposed to be allowed to have boundaries, right? And I see a lot of abusive shit go on in these rooms. A lot of abusive shit that if I was not really desperate for recovery would push me out of the rooms gone.
Mm,
Brandy, we were talking about it before the meeting, before
yeah.
we opened up this podcast. There's some shit going on.
Yeah.
It is wild, and to some people, it would cripple them. Some of the shit that we are dealing with right now, it will cripple some people. And
And the
so,
excuse that hurt people isn't a good enough fucking excuse for me.
no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. That's
I'm
not a
sorry
license to
to
kill.
say, like, you know what? Healing people heal people. That one's a pretty good excuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
but the hurt people, like we are not
That's a cop out.
governors.
That's a cop out.
Hey, look,
No,
whoever's trying to
like,
bring you down is already below you, right? You
Yeah.
got to
yeah,
understand that if they're trying to bring you down, they
it's
are
not
already
that
below
though.
you.
It's just that I find that kind of anger and hurtful speech, like I feel it's abusive.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's abusive, and others should not have to endure someone's abuse in order to help them recover. We can I can have you be incoherent, not making sense, forgetting my name for a year, needing me to help feed you even or whatever. But I just don't think you swearing at someone or insulting someone is acceptable behavior.
Mm,
That to me crosses the fucking line of social acceptability. Like
yeah.
what I've seen on some of the meetings is just going beyond where I honestly think it's damaging other members. And no one person's recovery is more important than the group's. Isn't that what it
Yeah.
says?
Yeah.
And so how is it that one person gets to just go around hurting people constantly? And then everybody just turns a blind because the hurt person hurts people. Like
Yeah.
I'm just seeing it over and over, and I'm not just seeing it from a guy, and I'm not just seeing it from a girl. I'm seeing it
Yeah.
from both. Like this isn't
Yeah.
a sexism thing. This isn't like this. Just has to do with someone who's been abused, sensitive to it, and really getting turned off it.
Yeah. 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 And so like in a newcomer hearing that is gonna like not really, it's not gonna be very conducive to them staying. Right. It's
Yeah,
not really gonna be a conducive atmosphere to like thinking that they're gonna come back, man. So
That's someone not
yeah.
being responsible for the recovery. Like
Exactly.
that,
Exactly. So
Yeah.
ask me the question one more time, Miss Brandy.
What potential dangers can arise from mistaking social acceptability with recovery?
Wow. Yeah. So it's a big difference, man. When I get in these rooms, I know, I'm not out in public kind of on my own accord. I'm trying to conduct myself in a way that is attractive to everybody. And I mean that just the way I handle myself, right? I try to treat others with humility. I try to I'd go above and beyond on trying to be loving and all that stuff. But it's how I try to, it's not that I'm showing people how to do it. It's just how I do what I do. And then if people are down with that, right? Like it's an organic thing that happens, man.
Mm,
It tends to happen, right? We all take on we all have our own role in these meetings too, right? Some of us are good at the message, some of us are good at service, some of us are good at the money part of it, some of us are good at, we all have our role here. um and when it comes to somebody coming in and just being with that really negative stuff, man, it's something that'll make a newcomer rethink what they're doing, right? I think
mm-hmm.
it'll rethink what
it
they're
doesn't
doing.
make the program look attractive. I'll tell
No,
you
No,
that
yeah,
right
it
now.
doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't. There's no
That's
attraction
yeah,
rather than promotion. It's a promotion of a negative feeling or just mindset,
Negative vibes repel, man.
yeah,
but yeah, so the sooner you let go of like what other people have done to you, man, like the sooner you're gonna like be able to embrace like what your higher power has in store for you. You got to kind of let go of what others are doing to you, because you're gonna come in here and just it's just not going to be a succinct message. I mean, it's not going to be a true message, and we're not going to feel anything from that message, right? If you're not coming on here and sharing your pain and heart, you're just complaining. It's not going to do much. It might do something for you, and if that does something for you, then that's fine. That's fine.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I just the social conformity versus recovery. Recovery is a whole different thing. Look, social conform your ass off in recovery, man. If it's gonna keep you clean, social conform that ass off. I don't care what
yeah,
it is. Just get in here and stay clean, because that's all. That's the only thing we got to do here. I've only done one thing right since I've got here, and that was stay clean. That's the
yeah,
only one thing I've done since I've been in these rooms is stay clean. Everything else, I make mistakes. We talked about it earlier. We're making mistakes. We're just trying, Brandy. If you're not making
yeah.
mistakes, you're not going to do anything in this world. You're not going to get anywhere in this world. You're
You're
not
not
going to
learning. You're
not
not
no
learning if you don't make
goals will be
mistakes.
attained, right? You're
Yeah,
not trying anything. What are you just gonna you got to try to get up out of this chair eventually, right? And then and then
yeah,
and then try to do something else, like build on that trying, right? Don't A body at rest stays at rest, a body in motion
yeah,
stays in motion, a mind in motion stays in motion, right? A mind in rest stays at rest. So as we're getting cleaned out, guys, and you start getting all those positive thoughts that are a little uncomfortable at first, push through that little uncomfortability, because we did with the drugs, right? We didn't just start doing drugs and it's real comfortable, right?
yeah,
It gets
yeah,
comfortable. This
Yeah.
shit gets comfortable, but it does in a whole different way, man. And you start getting your feelings and yours, man, shit smells different.
Yeah.
Everything's different, right? And so again, you can only lead the horse to water though, Brandi. We can't pull them, we
Yep.
can't drag, we can't throw them over the shoulder because they're too heavy, right?
Yeah.
We gotta go drink from that water, and I hope they walk behind me and come drink up next to the water next to
Yeah.
me,
Let's
because
just
I'm
see
not
how
gonna take it from
refreshing it
them.
is.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say, look, there's not enough for you. There's enough for everybody in this pond.
You can't do it for them. It's just,
Can't do it for them, man. Can't do
Yeah.
it for them, and then that $1 million question: when are they going to be ready? When is that addict
Yeah.
going to actually be ready, right? And that's something that we don't try to quantify, because we're just helping everybody. We're just hoping that the statistics are that we're going to keep more than we lose.
Yeah.
You know, that's my
They
thought.
say 2% stay.
I
That's
don't. I
crazy.
hate saying that. Makes my
I
bones
hate
cringe,
that too. Me
because then
too.
I'm not gonna be here. Like, I'm like looking around. When I got in treatment, they're like looking left to the left and right of you.
Yeah.
Probably each person on each side of you are not gonna be there. Like, for sure,
Right?
right?
I feel like I'm like getting picked for kickball or something. I want to be
Right.
last.
Right. You're like, how am I gonna
Pick
take
me,
this
pick
dude?
me.
How am I gonna
Yeah.
stab this dude on the way up so
Yeah.
I can make sure I'm the
Right.
one? That's how our brain
Yeah.
goes. It's like, well, if he's gonna
Yeah.
not make it, then not. It's weird, man. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. But addiction will affect itself in all aspects. And then when you're getting clean, your character defects will come out in much worse ways.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
why you got to stay proactive in your recovery too, because we were super proactive in our drugs using, because the drugs stopped working, right? We use more and
Yeah.
more because the drugs don't stop working. We build up a tolerance, and then the pain just gets so insurmountable that we're just sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yeah.
right? But then when we get clean, that pink cloud, it's real easy to get right back on drugs, guys. You gotta
Yeah.
stay consistent, and you gotta stay in the group, stay out of the grip. That's part of conformity too. Get in the group, stay in the middle of the
Yeah.
road. Don't fall off the edge, right? Don't even veer off the edge. You don't want to be looking over that cliff. You don't want that feeling. You know, you don't want to
I'm
go
scared of
back out.
heights.
You could not come. I'm super scared of heights, man. So that's all I got, man. That's all I got. I love you guys, man.
I love you
Well, that
guys
was
too.
good. That was
Thank you,
good.
Brandi, for coming
You
in.
got to answer, Brandi.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So for me, that there's a big danger in it because, well, not a big danger, but I mean, I thought it was a great question because, it's really easy to look good on the outside, like, especially people that aren't addicts, first of all, and then that aren't me, because I can make it look like, oh, I'm clean, so like I am recovered, but that's not what it is. It's like, because I used to be really, really good, and I got to catch myself to say I'm fine,
Yeah.
and that's because I wasn't dealing with what was going on, and I was fine. I wasn't working through something. Like, I'm clean. I'm